Welcome back to Human Rights class. This is a class on the absolute rights, specifically focusing on Article 2, the right to life. My name is Nissa Fizi. I'm a solicitor and a senior lecturer in law. The learning outcomes for this class are to explain the absolute rights protections, understand the comprehensive protections provided by absolute rights under the European Convention on Human Rights, to analyse Article 2's scope, examine the scope of Article 2 and analyse the positive and procedural obligations it places on states. As always, there are these true and false questions, so they're there to test your knowledge. So question 1 is true or false. Article 2 is an absolute right that prohibits all uses of lethal force by the state without exception. Question 2 is true or false. Article 2 imposes both a negative obligation not to take life unlawfully and a positive obligation to protect life. Question 3, true or false. Under the Usman principle, a positive obligation arises whenever there is a general risk of crime in society. Question 4 is true or false. A positive operational duty to protect life arises where authorities knew or ought to have known of a real and immediate risk to an identifiable individual. Question 5, true or false. Article 2 completely prohibits the death penalty in all circumstances. Question 6, true or false. No derogation from Article 2 is permitted except in respect of deaths resulting from lawful acts of war. Question 7, true or false. For lethal force to be lawful under Article 2.2, it must be no more than absolutely necessary and pursue one of the specified legitimate objectives. Question 8, true or false. Article 2's protection extends automatically to embryos and fetuses as persons with an independent right to life. And question 9, true or false. Article 2 includes procedural obligations requiring the state to conduct an effective investigation where individuals are killed as a result of the use of force. And 10, true or false. In R versus Dillon 2024, the Northern Ireland High Court found the immunity provisions in the Northern Ireland Troubles Legacy Reconciliation Act 2023 were compatible with Article 2. And again, there are single best answer questions, and you'll see the answers to these at the end. Question 1 is, the police receive multiple reports that Mark has made credible threats to kill his former partner, Sarah. Sarah reports escalating violence and provides evidence of previous assaults. No protective measures are taken. 2 weeks later, Mark kills Sarah. Sarah's family bring a claim under Article 2. Under the Usman principle, when does a positive operational duty arise? Is it A, whenever there is a general problem of domestic violence in society? B, whenever police are informed of any allegation of criminal behaviour? C, when authorities knew or ought to have known of a real and immediate risk to an individual, so an identified individual, and failed to take reasonable measures? D, only where the risk comes from a state official. And E, only where the victim had previously obtained a court injunction. Question 2, use of lethal force under Article 2.2 during a riot. Armed police officers shoot and kill an individual they believe is about to detonate an explosive device. It later emerges that the suspect was unarmed, but the officers honestly believed the threat was real. Which of the following must be satisfied for the use of force to comply with Article 2? Is it A, the officers must prove the suspect was actually armed? Is it B, the force must be no more than absolutely necessary and pursued for one of the 3 legitimate objectives in Article 2.2? Is it C, the force must be proportionate under Article 8 balancing test? Is it D, that the killing must be authorised personally by a government minister? Or is it F, the use of lethal force is automatically justified during any riot? And single best answer question 3, a man dies during a police restraint operation. The investigation is carried out internally by the same police force involved. The family are denied access to key reports and the investigations conclude after 4 years with minimal public scrutiny. Which of the following best reflects the procedural requirements under Article 2? Is it A, the investigation must only determine whether criminal charges should be brought? Is it B, the investigation must be independent, adequate, prompt, accessible to the family and subject to appropriate public scrutiny? Is it C, the investigation need only occur if criminal wrongdoing is proven? Is it D, the family have an entitlement to involvement in the investigation? Or is it E, an internal police review automatically satisfies Article 2? So let's look at Article 2, this is Article 2. It says everyone's right to life shall be protected by law. No one shall be deprived of his life intentionally, save in the execution of a sentence of a court following his conviction of a crime to which his penalty is provided by law. And you can see I've crossed that out because you'll understand why later. Article 2.2, deprivation of life shall not be regarded as inflicted in contravention of this article when it results from the use of force which is no more than absolutely necessary. A, in defence of any person from unlawful violence. B, in order to effect a lawful arrest or to prevent the escape of a person lawfully detained. Or C, in action lawfully taken for the pursuit of quelling a riot or insurrection. Now, Article 2, the right to life, is an absolute right, but with some exceptions that define its scope. It operates on two fundamental levels that create a comprehensive protection, or that's the aim for human life. It has a negative obligation, prohibits the state from taking life unlawfully, and a positive obligation places on the state a positive duty to protect life through effective legal frameworks. The state's positive duty to protect life, the state must establish effective criminal law provisions to deter offences against the person, backed by robust law enforcement machinery to prevent and punish breaches. In certain well-defined circumstances, there may be a positive obligation on authorities to take preventative operational measures to protect an individual whose life is at risk from criminal acts of another. This principle was established in Osman. Post-Osman, the conditions when states must act, well, that's following this particular case of Tadisa versus Georgia in 2021. The European Court recognised that police must make difficult operational choices. A positive obligation only arises when specific conditions are met. The knowledge requirement: authorities knew or ought to have known of a real and immediate risk. Identified individual risk must be to an identified individual from criminal acts of a third party. And there's a failure to act. Authorities fail to take reasonable measures within their powers to avoid the risk. And this is the case study. It's domestic violence and state responsibility. And it's in that case, a woman was murdered by her partner after escalating domestic abuse episodes reported to the police, but not acted upon. The European Court found a breach of Article 2. The facts: escalating domestic abuse, multiple reports to the police, no preventative action taken. A woman was murdered by her partner. This case demonstrates how states can be held accountable for failing to protect vulnerable individuals when they have knowledge of specific risks. The death penalty and derogation. Now, Article 2 does not prohibit the death penalty, but Article 1 of the 13th Protocol, in force in the UK since 2004, does prohibit. That's why in the previous slide you'll see me cross out some of the parts in the article. Derogation restrictions. No derogation from Article 2 is possible except for deaths resulting from lawful acts of war. There are permitted use of lethal force contained in Article 2.2, which permits force resulting in death, but only under strict conditions. Both conditions must be satisfied simultaneously. Absolute necessity test: the use of force must be no more than absolutely necessary, and it must be trying to achieve one of those legitimate objectives. Force must pursue one of these three specific objectives defined in Article 2.2. Those three permitted objectives for lethal force are: defence against violence, force used in defence of any person from unlawful violence; to carry out a lawful arrest, force used to effect a lawful arrest or prevent escape of a person lawfully detained; and quelling disorder, force used in action lawfully taken to quell a riot or an insurrection. Now, McCann versus UK, death on the rock, very famous case back in the 1980s. The leading case involved 3 provisional IRA members shot dead by SAS soldiers in Gibraltar in 1988. Please read the facts of this case in more detail, but the relatives challenged the killing and won by a slim majority of 10-9. Whilst the soldiers' actions didn't violate Article 2, The control and planning of operations lacked sufficient regard for protecting the suspects' lives. The force used was more than absolutely necessary. This established that both the immediate use of force and the operational planning must comply with Article 2. Scope of Article 2 beyond the direct state action. Case law has expanded Article 2 scope significantly. The duty to protect life applies to any activity, whether public or private, where there is a real and immediate risk to life. Nuclear testing and waste collection are some examples there. Embryos and fetuses and the right to life. The European Court has determined that Article 2's protection doesn't extend to embryos or fetuses, recognising this falls within states' margin of appreciation. R versus F in 1988 established that the fetus has no right to life under Article 2, and Evans and UK confirmed embryos have no independent right to life when consent to implantation is withdrawn. Environmental pollution and Article 2. In that particular case, the Italy case, residents complained about illegal waste disposal and hazardous waste burning. The court found Italy had violated Article 2. The problem here, unauthorised waste disposal sites, illegally burying and burning of hazardous waste, activities by organised criminal groups, years of state knowledge without action. Court reasoning, despite the complex nature involving private land and criminal organisations, they had ample evidence of dangerous activities for many years. Given the seriousness, Italy hadn't done enough to protect lives. There's now also a procedural duty, the obligation to investigate. This is also very important, and this is from the case of De Silva. Article 2 also places a procedural obligation on states to investigate when individuals are killed as a result of force. That's from McGann versus UK. This provides a legal remedy when criminal prosecutions wouldn't succeed. So this is, and De Silva refers to effective investigations and defines it as like this. You'll see the 6 features of an effective investigation. 1, independence. Investigators must be independent from those implicated in the events. 2, adequacy. Investigations must establish facts and determine if force was justified and to punish those responsible. 3, accessibility. Investigation must be accessible to family and reports and evidence which is not prejudicial to investigations or private individuals, so they must be disclosed. Promptness. Investigation must be carried out without undue delay. Public scrutiny. This varies from case to case, but there must be a level of public scrutiny, and the nature and degree of that scrutiny needs to be stringent when deaths involves at the hands of a state agent. So these are the procedural duty. These are the features that are the procedural obligations and define what is the meaning of effective investigation. There's also some contemporary challenges. This is one still ongoing as I'm recording. But in R versus Dillon, the Northern Ireland High Court ruled that immunity provisions in the Northern Ireland Trouble, Legacy and Reconciliations Act 2023 breached Article 2 of and Article 3 of the ECHR, and that's still ongoing. Back to the true and false questions. Feel free to pause the slide, check your answers with the next slide. Hope you got it right. Hope I've got it right. Check the answers here. These are single best answer questions with the following slides. Please feel free to pause the video and check the following 3 slides. Here's the first slide. Hope you got the answer correct. Here's the second slide. Hope you got the answer correct. And here's the third slide. Hope you got the answer correct. Just as a summary to finish the class, the right to life under Article 2 is considered to be absolute. Places on the state a negative duty not to take life and a positive duty to protect life. See Usman and the Taljeka versus Georgia case. Article 2.2 permits the use of force when condition 1, the force is no more than absolutely necessary, and condition 2, in pursuit of one of the 3 objectives: defence of a person, effect a lawful arrest, or to quell a riot or insurrection. Case laws help to define the scope of Article 2. There's also procedural duty under Article 2 for the state to investigate when the individual's killed as a result of death. That's in the case of McCann. And De Silva defines what an effective investigation involves. Independent investigation, an adequate investigation to establish the facts. The nature and degree of the investigation needs to be stringent. Investigations must be accessible to the family. There must be a sufficient degree of public scrutiny, and the investigation must be carried out promptly. Thank you for watching this class. I hope you found it useful. Please subscribe, like, share, comment, and I shall see you in the next class, which is on Article 3.